Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I am Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And so here we are again, another episode. We are going to both be taking our masks off. I actually read something, or I don't know if it was in my notes or where I saw it, or I may have even written it down where it said, take off your mask to breathe better.
Ooh.
Take off your mask to breathe better. So if we take, metaphorically speaking, if we're taking off our masks, and again, it's a process, right? We take it off, it comes back on, we take it off. But the more we practice it, the more we work on it, the better we can breathe.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that kind of cool?
Well, and even the breathing, because our nervous system is settled, we're also more in the present when we're not wearing our masks. Yeah. And how do we stay in the present? Because we're breathing, we're noticing that. So it's like, I love that.
Yeah. So
when we are wearing the mask, we're not present.
100%. And we're going to talk about that today when we talk about the avoidance mask, how when I'm wearing the avoidance mask, I am not in the present moment. And so I love that whole idea of let's eat, we're going to show up each episode and we're going to take our masks off so that you and I and everyone listening can start to breathe just a little bit better. Right. But before we get into it, I will start with the quote as we normally do. So this quote actually is in Brene Brown's newest book, The Atlas of the Heart. And one of her I think she says it's one of her favorite teachers is Dr. Harriet Lerner. So she quoted Dr. Harriet Lerner in her book, Atlas of the Heart. And this is the quote. "It is not fear that stops you from doing the brave and true thing in your daily life. Rather, the problem is avoidance. You want to feel comfortable, so you avoid doing or saying the thing that will evoke fear and other difficult emotions. Avoidance will make you feel less vulnerable in the short run, but it'll never make you less afraid." And that's Dr. Harriet Lerner. So here we go. Let's take off our masks and be vulnerable with how this shows up.
Yeah, and
for us.
Not avoid that.
And even though before we hit record, I was mentioning some things like how I used to do it when I was little, and I still will share that. But again, this is a running joke with Tia and I that I don't know why or how, but every time I go to the bathroom, I get some kind of download. So it's the weirdest thing. And so just before we hit record, I went to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, okay, I got another download.
I love it.
So I didn't even share it with you yet.
I'm excited to hear.
So the download is, or what's currently happening for me right now is, and as you know, I was just on the phone before trying to sell my dad's mobile home. And the woman just found out this afternoon that she got approved to get in, to be able to be in the park. It's for 55 and older community. So you have to have approval. They want to be sure about who they're renting to and who's in there, right? So she had to go through an approval process that started 27 days ago. And she initially got denied. And
really?
She called, so I'm going to give the whole backstory because then you'll understand how hard this was for me to do what I had to do and how much I wanted to put the avoidance mask on. So she calls me the other day and says, I think it was even just yesterday maybe, or the day before, and told me she was denied. And she was crying on the phone. She was crying saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. My husband and I were supposed to be out of our current living situation by this weekend. And, of course, I'm an empath, I'm a rescuer. I wear all of those masks. And I'm like, right then and there, I'm like, oh, do I want to save her? Do I want to rescue her? Let her, whatever. I held strong. I didn't say anything. I said, maybe there's another way you can appeal or whatever. So that is what she went and did yesterday, which was to appeal. And then she called me today, just a little while ago, and said she got approved. So yay, she's approved. And now our appointment is for this coming Monday. So in a couple of days, to go to the Department of DMV. That's how you transfer a mobile home. It's just like a car. It's just like a car. So I'm going to meet her there. She's going to give me a check. I'm going to sign the title over to her, and I'm going to give her the key.
Yep.
Now here's where the tricky part comes in.
Uh-oh.
So when she called to tell me that she was approved, she asked if she could get the key and move stuff in this weekend. And right away, I felt triggered, right? So I'm like, okay, let me investigate what's going on here. Let me go inward, because I'm like feeling like, oh, I felt my old little girl, inner child, being like, again, my gut was saying, don't do it.
Okay.
But my inner child, the fearful part of me that wants to wear that avoidance mask, that wants to avoid doing the, where is it? So you avoid doing or saying the thing that will evoke fear and other difficult emotions. I wanted to avoid speaking up to her, having conflict with her. I wanted to avoid saying no, like all the things that in the past I would have easily done. I would have put the avoidance mask on. I would have said, oh, sure, yes, you know, and I would have, no problem. I would have people pleased. I would have said yes when I really wanted to say no.
Yeah.
That's the Gabor Mate stuff, right? That's the disconnect. That's abandoning myself. That's going against my gut to stay attached to someone else's whatever.
Right.
Okay, so it's so loaded, right? You think one little simple freaking situation, but look how multi-layered. And this is why our process is so amazing and works so incredibly well, because I can use the process and go through this whole entire thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what I ended up doing, I haven't fully yet, because I'm still in the middle of it. My sister has to check the insurance policy and see what kind of coverage we have. If we have the full coverage liability, if someone, you know, she goes in and gets hurt on the property, or if something gets ruined, if we're covered,
right?
Then I just asked the neighbor if I could call him tomorrow. He has a key to my dad's place. And I asked if he was going to be around, and if he's going to be around, would he be willing to unlock the door, let them go in for a few hours, and then lock the door.
Wow.
So there's the in between, like I'm not giving her a key, but I'm going to see if, you know, there's a gray area where maybe she can go and bring some stuff in for a few hours.
You can collaborate and find a solution.
Find a solution. Now, so in order to get there, it takes a lot of things. Being in the present moment is you know, being present, breathing, being in this moment, not getting stuck in patterns from the past. Because I clearly would have, like I said earlier, I would have done all the, yep, no problem, and put myself and my sister at risk.
Yeah.
So it's just goes to show, you know, by practicing and doing the work and going through our process and deconstructing and going inward, and I can get there a lot quicker. It didn't take me a long time today, but in the past it would have.
Sure, because it was new and now it's becoming more wired and more of a process that you can access. So now that like you honored yourself, and you didn't avoid the discomfort of potentially upsetting her, and you made all these conscious steps to see, okay, can we make this work? Here's this compromise that allows you what you need and it also honors what I need.
Right.
How do you feel?
I feel really good. Now I feel really good. I feel very centered. I feel strong. I feel empowered. I feel true, but that I'm being true to myself. So I'm showing love for myself.
Love it.
Because I'm being true to me.
Yeah.
I haven't had the conversation with her yet because we're still waiting for my sister to get out of work to check the insurance policy. Because if we don't have that coverage, it's a non-issue anyway.
Yeah.
If we don't have the coverage, I don't have a problem saying to her that I can't let you go in because I have to protect myself. But I would have struggled before. I would have had a hard time in the past, even saying that. I would have wanted to avoid. I might not have even called her back. That's how much I would have went to avoid.
Furious avoiding.
Yeah, I might have just like let the whole weekend. Oh, and then I would have let the whole weekend go by and say, oh, my phone was off. How many of you had done that?
I didn't get your message.
I didn't get your message, right? I mean, come on. How many of us have done that before, right? To avoid. So I do feel really good about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And like how you really honored what was showing up for you.
Yeah.
And you didn't make a reactive decision. You sat with it, is what it sounds like. You sat with it through the process. And then the clarity came because you were honoring all of you.
Yeah, I honored all of it. But I will say that initially, though, I was flooded. I was flooded with like emotion and thoughts, and I felt a little bit dysregulated. I was like, literally, because my husband he's in insurance, that's what he does. And I'm like running around, like looking for him so I can ask him what he thought, but he was on call. So I couldn't even ask him what his opinion was.
You needed someone to give you the answer in that moment.
Yes, I needed, but you know what it is? What I really need was for him to validate what I already knew.
Exactly.
I just needed
the
him
external to tell you.
Yep. So, and that's even more beautiful that he wasn't available, because I had to then truly listen and honor what I knew to be true and come up with, make the decision on my own. And that's what I did.
And what I love too is, if he had been available and if you had gotten that external validation from him, I would honor to guess you wouldn't feel as clear within you because you would have given your power away to him.
Yes.
And gone with it, because even though you knew that's what you wanted, you still could say, oh, it's because he said so. He said so. It's not you rising up and owning it fully. So it must feel very different because it's an internal.
It does. And that's such a great point, because that is the one very familiar feeling pattern from like being a child, like growing up, I had a hard time trusting myself and believing myself. But if someone else validated and said, oh yeah, that's what you should do, or, oh yeah, you're right, then I would go ahead and say, okay, this is good. But I love how you just pointed out that it does feel different, because in those other situations, I'm letting the other person give me the power versus the power coming from within. And it's such a different feeling.
Exactly. Even if the decision was the same, it doesn't mean you would have taken it without that external because you had to do the work, but it still would have been, well, it wasn't all me. Yeah,
totally. I get the difference, and you're 100% right on that. So that's good that you pointed that out. Yeah. So
what
how about you?
Example.
I know. And thank you. How about you? How does it show up for you?
I think, there's the obvious ones of like, oh, do I speak up or do I not speak up? Do I speak my truth? And I've learned over the years, and it still gets me, I'm human, right? But I have learned over the years where it's like, actually staying silent is my truth. And then other times when I'm like, oh no, speaking up is important. That is my truth. But I also still will put that avoidance mask on and be like, I just don't have the energy for this. So I'm just not going to say anything. But it's a different energy behind that. It's not that empowered. I don't need to say anything. It's not necessary, versus, ooh, I don't want to say anything because that person might react this way, or I don't want to be the non-people, it's a very different energy.
Completely. And I know what you're saying. And the one way when it's more like icky feeling is what the quote says, is that avoidance will make you feel less vulnerable in the short run,
right?
But it will never make you less afraid.
Exactly.
So when you're choosing in those moments to not speak up and the other person, when it's out of fear,
Right.
that's different than making a conscious choice to just say, you know what, I'm going to save my energy right now, or it's not worth it right now in this particular situation for me to say anything.
And I think it's clear too that when it's a choice not to say something, it's the same strength of the choice to say something.
Yep.
Neither
Yes.
is right or wrong, always speak up or whatever. They're both equivalent based on that present moment awareness and understanding of, am I going to use my words or am I going to speak my words with silence? So I not have to speak, but the silence is just as powerful as speaking up for a different reason, but they're both, the energy behind them is the same. That makes sense.
It does. It does. Yeah, no. So I can relate to that experience as well. Cause I also, know there's been so many times at a family gathering or when I was in high school, with friends, they might be talking about something and having a conversation, and I felt completely different. And I had my own thought, my own belief, my own opinion, and I didn't share it, but out of fear. And so I avoided. It's totally different. So I didn't want to what I was avoiding was being rejected or judged or criticized. I didn't want to be vulnerable. That was another one, avoiding showing my feelings, like not crying in public or not showing my feelings, emotions. I was avoiding being vulnerable.
Right.
And the quote says, you might feel it in the short run, but you're not, and that's so true, because I always had the fear. It never escaped me.
Yep. Yeah. And it's such a very stronghold, really.
It's a very stronghold.
And women in particular, we were taught,
be seen and not heard, right?
Be polite, don't rock the boat. Sometimes it's better to say, what's that old saying? Better not to say anything than it's something, I can't remember the saying, but basically saying it's better not to say anything than to say something, when in reality, that's not that global. Yes, it is.
Exactly.
And it also is not.
I know.
I can't remember
that's very bad cultural conditioning.
And where do we think we get these masks from?
I know. Exactly. Yeah. So any other ways that you can think of that people might put the avoidance mask on, aside from the couple of little examples we gave?
I mean, I think one, that we've shared, and it may not be specific to everyone in the way it's shown up for me, and I think you as well, because we've talked about it, is that fear of, marketing ourselves, actually going through the hello, sign up for this or pay us for that, or, but we also know the value of it, but it feels icky, even though the reality is it's not. So, and it's also that underlying fear of, what if the message is misunderstood? What if they don't get it? So if I shine my light and someone closes the door and dims our light, they're not really doing that. That's just our perception and fear. So a lot of times people don't shine their light for fear of rejection. So they're avoiding, like everything you were saying is just another way it can show up through work or through other situations. It's not always just in those interpersonal relationships, putting a video on social media. I don't have the energy today, or my hair is kind of wacky today, I'm just not going to bother. We grab these little silly things to give us excuses not to do it.
And sometimes we may not even realize that we're making these excuses. Like I honestly, I've done it for the last year and a half. I have to take care of my dad. I have to take care of my uncle. I'm helping my daughter. I'm moving to, I got all these things to do, all these little, at the end of the day, let me take off my mask and just say that they are excuses. They are, honestly, there is a truth to it, but there is also a layer of me wearing the avoidance mask that it's easier for me to just do this other little stuff than to put myself out there.
Right.
and to grow my business, or to do whatever, I mean, you and I are doing our thing now, but it took a while. And I know there's a component of that, and I'm being 100% real and 100% honest about it.
Totally.
So it's like, if we don't call ourselves out and we can't take 100% responsibility, we're not being authentic. So there's certainly a layer of that for me.
Definitely. I mean, how long we've had this figured out for quite a while, like at least the basics of it all. And like, oh yeah, we'll get to it in a couple weeks. And then finally we're picking the date.
Yes. And then you have to.
Now we can.
No, it's so true. And look how much different, if, once we pick the date, it feels different already. It's like already like now I'm kicking into gear, because there's a date now, there's a deadline.
Yeah. And so that math just, let's tuck it aside. We don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
It'll pop back in. No doubt it's going to pop back on for you or me or both of us at the same time. But hopefully we'll take turns wearing it and we can push it through.
But that is, again, we say this all the time to, our community, is that's the beauty of being in community, and we can hold each other accountable. We can support one another. So, that's important as well.
It is.
In terms of just helping one another to, take a look at the masks that we wear, and then how can we take them off, and knowing they'll come back on, take them off again, just so that, again, tying it back, coming full circle, so we can breathe a little easier. Exactly. So we're here to help all of you take your masks off so that you can breathe a little easier too.
Definitely. And having that compassion and understanding that you're not alone when it pops back up. There's nothing wrong with you. Doesn't mean you haven't grown and evolved. It just means that, hey, here it is. And guess what? It gives you another opportunity to remove it. That's it.
Absolutely. So we are here to support you. Feel free to reach out to us. We hope that you enjoyed the content today of this episode and enjoyed hearing Tia and I take off our masks, and we will continue to show up and take our masks off and be vulnerable with you in light of inspiring you guys to take off yours as well.
Exactly. Beautifully stated. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Take care.